Imagine this. You've just finished this huge shopping trip, right?
Yeah.
You're in the Philippines. You're loaded up with groceries.
Bags are busting.
Exactly. And just as you're feeling pretty good about yourself, you find out about this discount you could have gotten.
Oh, the worst.
The worst, right. So today we are diving deep into these Philippine discount rules for senior citizens and persons with disabilities, making sure that, never miss out.
Yeah, stay informed.
We were dissecting a 2024 joint order, fresh from multiple government departments.
Oh, hot off the presses.
Hot off the presses.
For real deal.
This is the source, the real deal, and our mission. To break it down so clearly, so engagingly, you'll be a discount expert by the end of this.
That's a bold claim. I like it.
So first things first, who are these discounts actually for? We say the names, right? It's in the title, but let's get specific.
Specificity is key, especially when we're dealing with, government documents and things like that. This order is very clear that it covers both senior citizens and persons with disabilities. And here's the kicker. It applies nationwide.
Ooh. We're not talking about a regional thing. This is across the entire Philippines, which is important because it impacts a huge portion of the population, no matter where they live.
Nationwide. Okay, so when we were prepping for this deep dive, something in the document caught our eye. There's a specific mention of exempting small businesses registered under RA 9178 along with cooperatives.
Interesting.
What's the story there? Why even make that distinction?
That is a fantastic question and a sign that you are already thinking like a policy analyst. By exempting these smaller businesses, the government is likely trying to protect them from potential financial strain. It's a glimpse into, that balancing act they often have to play. Supporting social welfare while also making sure that, the economy can still function, especially for, the little guy.
Right, like mom and pop shops.
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting. It's like a little peek behind the curtain of how these decisions are actually made. Okay, let's talk about what everyone came here for, the actual discounts.
Everybody wants to save a peso. Right. The order breaks down eligible items into two main categories, basic necessities and prime commodities. Essentially, your must-haves versus your pretty important stuff. Anything on these lists that really surprised you?
I don't think reading through an entire grocery list on a podcast is going to be that thrilling for people.
Probably not.
So let's highlight a few unexpected gems, shall we?
Okay, let's do it.
For instance, under basic necessities, you've got your staples, rice, of course. But get this, fish and other marine products are also included.
So discounts on your protein too, not just your carbs. I'm already seeing the appeal here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then when you move on to the prime commodities list, you'll find things like construction materials.
Oh, wow.
That's significant because, that tells us that the government is considering the needs of homeowners who might need to make repairs, especially, senior citizens, persons with disabilities.
So it really broadens that scope of what's considered essential.
It does.
It's not just food on the table. It's maintaining a safe, livable home as well.
Absolutely.
This discount, it's not just about saving a few pesos here and there. It reflects what they are prioritizing.
Right.
When it comes to goods and services for their citizens.
It's statement.
Okay, I know we've got to cover the fine print.
Yeah. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Don't worry. We'll make it as painless as possible. Let's talk numbers. What's the discount? And are there any limitations?
All right. So the order very clearly states a 5% discount on all eligible items. Sounds pretty straightforward. But here's where it gets interesting. There's a weekly cap on how much you can actually save. You're limited to PHP 125.0000 in discounts per week.
So you can't just buy like a year's worth of rice and max out your discount.
Not so fast.
Darn.
To hit that PHP 125.000000 on eligible items. And one more important detail. You can't just stock up on one single item, no matter how tempting that might be.
Right.
The order requires a minimum purchase of 4 different types of items from those lists to qualify.
So variety is key. I love that they built that in. Okay, so you're ready to shop. You've got your list. You're feeling good. What absolutely must be in your pocket as you approach that checkout?
Well, identification is non-negotiable.
Of course.
For senior citizens, that means your senior citizen ID card, the one issued by the Office of Senior Citizens Affairs, or OSCA, as the cool kids call it.
They call it that, right?
That's what I hear. Or, if for some reason you don't have that on hand, any government-issued ID that clearly shows your name, picture, and date of birth will do. Now, for persons with disabilities, you'll need your PWD ID, the one that you can get from either the Persons with Disability Affairs Office, PDAO, the City Municipal Social Welfare and Development Office, CMSWDO, or the National Council on Disability Affairs, NCDA.
And I'm guessing they're not going to just take your word for it.
Oh, I left it in the car. Does not fly here.
No.
This is one of those times you're going to need the physical ID itself. However, the order does mention purchase booklets that shoppers are supposed to present, and there's a chance those could go digital in the future.
Okay, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned, because that could be interesting.
That makes a lot of sense. It feels like everything's moving online these days.
It really is.
Speaking of online, it is the 21st century after all. Does this discount apply to those of us who prefer to do our shopping, with the virtual cart?
Great news for all you tech-savvy shoppers out there. The order specifically includes online purchases, but of course there are a few rules to make sure that everything stays above board.
Of course, there are always rules.
Online retailers are required to match their online prices with what they charge in their physical stores, so no funny business.
So no, sneaky price hikes online just because they know someone might be using a discount.
Yeah, trying to game the system.
Smart.
Fairness across the board. And this inclusion of online shopping in the discount program highlights the commitment to making these benefits accessible in both the physical and digital marketplaces, which is so important in today's world.
Hugely important. It really levels that playing field, doesn't it?
It does.
And that brings us to, I think, another important question. What about those situations, I'm sure it's happened, where a business might try to pull a fast one and not honor the discount? What are your rights as a consumer?
You are absolutely right to bring that up. The order is crystal clear on this. Any complaints about violations of this discount, they need to be reported to the right authorities.
Okay.
For most people, that's going to be the Office of Senior Citizens Affairs, or OSCA, the Persons with Disability Affairs Office, PDAO, or the City Municipal Social Welfare and Development Office, CMSWDO. We're talking about situations where, a business might be deliberately ignoring the rules or just making it difficult for eligible shoppers to claim the benefits that they're entitled to. And let me tell you, there are consequences for that kind of behavior.
Yeah, don't mess around.
Don't mess around. The penalties for violating this order can be quite hefty.
As they should be.
As they should be. Speaking of the law, this order, it's not set in stone.
It's not.
The people who drafted this, they were smart enough to realize that things change, right? The economy, people's needs, even just the way we shop.
The way we shop, absolutely.
They had to build in a way to adapt.
Okay, so tell me they built in a way to adapt.
They absolutely did. Every 5 years, a review process kicks in.
Like a check back later, things might be different kind of deal.
Exactly. The relevant government agencies, they're required to take a fresh look at these discounts.
Interesting.
Factoring in things like inflation, any other elements that might impact how effective those discounts actually are. So it's not static. It's designed to evolve over time.
I love that. That means that they're taking it seriously.
Right.
It's not just like throwing it out there and hoping for the best. They're actually going to check back in and make sure it's working. Okay, so before we move on, let's recap. What are those really key takeaways? What do our listeners need to remember before they head out on their next shopping trip?
It boils down to this. These discounts exist. Use them.
Yes.
Check your pantry. See what you need from those lists we talked about. And then plan your shopping trips. Do it strategically. Every peso saved adds up.
Absolutely, it does. And don't keep this information to yourself. Share it. Share it with your friends, your family, your neighbors, anyone you think could benefit from, a little boost to their budget.
It's so easy to get lost in the details, right, when you're talking about government documents, but we can't lose sight of the why behind it all. These discounts, they're about recognizing the contributions of our senior citizens, supporting the needs of persons with disabilities. It's about making sure that everyone has access to those essential goods and can live with dignity and financial security.
Beautifully said. It's a good reminder that policies like these, they're not just about rules and regulations, right? It's about people.
It is.
And speaking of the future, we've talked about how this discount system is set for review every 5 years, which leads us to, I think, an interesting question for our listeners. Given how rapidly the world is changing technology, shopping habits, what adjustments, what additions do you think might be needed by that next review to make sure that this program really stays relevant and effective?
Now, there's a question worth pondering. The world is certainly not standing still, is it? Technology is advancing at a dizzying pace. What seems like a luxury today might be an absolute necessity tomorrow.
It's like trying to hit a moving target, isn't it?
It really is. One thing that comes to mind immediately is the rise of these online grocery delivery services.
Oh, yeah.
Will this discount system need to adapt to incorporate those new ways of shopping? And what about the very definition of essential goods? Could those lists, the basic necessities and the prime commodities, could those need updating to reflect how our needs and our consumption patterns are evolving?
Totally. What's a prime commodity today could be completely different in 5 years.
Exactly. And then there's the increasingly crucial issue of financial inclusion.
Right.
How can we guarantee that senior citizens and persons with disabilities who may not have easy access to technology or traditional banking services, how can we be sure they're not left behind? They need to be able to take full advantage of these discounts as well.
Absolutely.
A lot to think about.
It really does. There's so much to consider, right?
Yeah.
It just highlights how important that ongoing evaluation, that adaptation is when we're talking about policies like this.
Sure.
We don't want to just set it and forget it.
Right.
We want to make sure it's working for the people it's designed to help.
And that active engagement, that willingness to say, okay, let's look at this again, that's going to be key to making sure these discounts stay relevant.
Absolutely. Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the world of Philippine discounts.
I think so.
For senior citizens and persons with disabilities.
It's been quite a journey.
We've covered a lot of ground. We broke it down, who's eligible, what's covered, how it all works. We even peeked into the crystal ball a little bit.
A little future gazing.
Future gazing, exactly.
Always fun.
Always fun. But we uncovered some hidden gems in those government documents. Hopefully equipped you with what you need to navigate all this with confidence. And even share that knowledge with others.
Spread the wealth.
Spread the wealth. Knowledge is power, right?
Especially when it comes to discounts and your benefits.
Yes, exactly. So use what you've learned today. Spread the word. Plan those shopping trips strategically.
Be smart out there.
And until next time, happy shopping. And keep those deep dive suggestions coming our way.